All right, everybody, welcome back to the Iron Sharpens Iron podcast. We're here at Discover Church here in Chesapeake, Virginia. As always, I'm Chris.
What the?
All right, we're just gonna keep on going. As always, I'm Jesse. This is Chris. Last week we had Dan Alvarez's testimony on, and as you guys know, Alex had got a kidney transplant from Beth. So now we have Beth here today, and she's gonna give us her testimony. So, over to you.
Thank you. So I guess where do I get started? So I think I'm gonna start with a little bit about my childhood and just kind of my walk with God and like kind of how it all started, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So my parents got a divorce when I was 7 years old, and I went with my dad, and my dad was in the Navy, and it was basically just him and I. We were super close. My dad always was very big on family, and we got to go see my grandparents a whole lot. And my grandparents were very, very, very involved in church, and that's kind of like where I remember it most was through my grandparents. My dad also took me, but I really, remember a lot of going to church, and I would stay with my grandparents off and on for different reasons, because of my dad's work and going out to sea and things like that. So I would get pretty involved with, Bible study and Sunday school and music, and I definitely somewhere in there definitely accepted Jesus Christ in my heart, and eventually down the road got baptized, and I always had a relationship with Jesus, but sometime in my adult life I kind of started to get busy. So my ex-husband and I, we we were very involved in a church, and Ron Jones actually was the pastor, and Tina and Ron are actually still to this day like family to me. I love them very much, and we volunteered there, we went there, we were extremely involved, and life just kind of got in the way, and slowly it wasn't a fit for us anymore, and we were trying to find something that was like closer to our home, and long story short, just kind of fell out of going to church, and you know, went less and less and less, and then eventually kind of didn't go at all. I still always believed in God and would pray, but I didn't really have a relationship with Him. And um, fast forward, we kind of, we were together for a pretty long time, and we had our daughter, and just kind of like here and there would go to church, try again, and then kind of fall out. It's like kind of like how it went down for a really long time, and we just never seemed to get connected. Um, it was like, I don't know, it never seemed to have that connection like I did with Ron Jones Church. So fast forward, we moved into the last neighborhood that we were in before our divorce, and my ex started making a lot of money, and the neighborhood was it just became our home became like the party house. There was always people over. I was always hosting. I love to host to this day. I love to cook for people. And that's kind of how it started off. We would have people over all the time. We were the party house. We were the cool house. We had the nice backyard and the pool, and we just
You still do that,
always.
right?
Do I still do that? No.
Yeah. No, I mean like you said you like to host and stuff.
Oh, yes. So I like to host, but my house is not nearly the size it used to be. So it's not as easy.
I just heard food and
Yeah. No, to this day I love to cook. I love to cook. It's one of my like love languages. So,
Mm.
um so we with that, there was lots of alcohol. There was always alcohol. And it somewhere along the way it became more and more frequent, more and more okay. I know I mentioned, that I grew up with my dad. What I didn't mention is my dad is an alcoholic. He is a recovering alcoholic, but during my childhood, he was active on and off in his addiction. And so for majority of my beginning of my adulthood, I was very scared of alcohol. I would, kind of like only have it on occasion. I never drank when I was pregnant. Like I was very safe with it. And in that house was where it started to become this like very normal, very okay at everything. And somewhere I let my guard down with it. And so like when I look at, you know, I guess the beginning of the end, I would say that's where it all really kind of started to fall apart. My ex and I ended up I wanted a separation from him for a lot of reasons. It was not a healthy relationship at all, and I wanted out for a very long time, but I didn't know how to get out, and I stayed for a lot longer than I probably should have. But we had a daughter, and again, that whole Christian upbringing, like you don't get a divorce, and so it got really, really bad at the end. And so I finally did leave, and when I left, um, there was 2 years of hell. Um, my ex put me through a lot. Um, and he I don't want to go into too far of detail because, I don't want my daughter to ever feel uncomfortable about, and this is her father. And, but there was a lot of manipulation towards her. And there was just a lot of court and a lot of like, it became awful. I felt like I was living in hell every day. And I became where it was like this constant, like, taking pictures, documenting. I had to keep everything for court, just documented all the time. And my life got like ruled by that. And then when I didn't, so we would have Natalie 50-50. So when I didn't have Natalie, me and my best friend she had just went through her divorce. And so we got really close through that. And just, uh, she went through a pretty hard situation also. And so we started to have it where our weekends were without the kids. So she had every other weekend without her kids. And so we started to have our weekends every other weekend without the kids, and that's where the partying really kind of started to get more frequent. And we kind of pride ourselves on being wild and free, and no man's going to tell us what to do, and we're going to have a good time and dance on bars, and like the whole like just be free. And anybody that lives in that life for long enough realizes that it's not free. You're chained. And a lot of, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of fun, but there also was a lot of bad stuff that came with it. Things that I did that I regret, things that I said, when alcohol gets involved, you can get, changes your personality, and, arguments and just different things that went down that would not have went down if there wasn't so much alcohol. And even, I put myself in a situation where, sexual assault was also a part of my past. So, and the funny thing was, I was extremely angry with myself about it. I felt like it was all my fault because I allowed myself to be in a situation that I should have never been in. So it took me a really long time of therapy to realize that, I wasn't to blame for that, and that I needed to heal and deal with that. So fast forward, we get through all of that. I'm life is getting good. I meet Brian, and
So when is this in relation to now?
Big time frame, like year, I would say.
in relation to now, so 2 years ago.
Oh.
So I meet Brian. I have Natalie full time. My ex is out of the country. I get a really great job. Like literally, like life is finally not just like essentially I was living in fight or flight during those 2 years. That's through diagnosis of therapy and things like that. I was um I was literally just surviving. And so when life started to get normal, um, I was able to sit in my feelings and in my pain. And that's when things really fell apart. Um, I started drinking around the clock. Um, I, and this all happened very quickly. Like, we're talking like a heavy, good time party drinker to literally, I would get up in the morning and have to take a shot of something to just get my day started because I would be so miserable from, the hangover. Anybody that abuses alcohol understands exactly what I'm talking about, that feeling of like you just have to have a little to get your day started, kind of like hair of the dog, right?
Yeah.
So even people that just drink normal, like if you've had like a really heavy drinking night the next day, like if you go grab a margarita or a Bloody Mary or whatever, it's kind of helps a little. Well, that became my daily life. And then it was, um, like, okay, well, I'll do that, and then I won't have any until I get home, and then I'll start my process of drinking again until I would go to bed. And then it became to where I would have some in the morning, and then I couldn't make it till I got home. I just needed to cut my brain off. I just couldn't deal. Like I had so much pain and things that I had not dealt with that I could not tolerate my feelings. And it got easier to live numb than to deal with it. And if it wasn't for Natalie, there were some really low moments to where I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't want to feel. I didn't know how to. And there was this cry for help, but I didn't know how to get help. I didn't know where to start. Um, I I just I fought so hard to get Natalie, and I was so afraid that if I tried to get help, what was going to happen? Was she going to be taken from me? Just all the things like, and so I just kept trying to deal with it on my own, and obviously that wasn't working, and it just got worse, and it put me in. So 2 separate times 911 got called. The first time I went, and they basically said, "You need help." And I said, "I know." And they said, "Well, we know that you're a single mom and you need to work, and we can try like outpatient therapy and see how that works for you." And I said, "Okay." So we signed up for all of that, and not even I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was less than a week later. I was back in 911, back rushed to the hospital. This time they were like, "Look, obviously you have like a, a big problem." And not only not only was I addicted to alcohol, but when you're that in it, detox is dangerous. You can die from that. And so they didn't want me just going home and trying to attempt to detox on my own. So they wanted me to go to detox, and I, at that point, was so raw and so broken. And at the end, that it didn't matter what they said, I would have said yes. Like, just, I need help. Like I just remember saying that I need help. I need help, God. I need help. And so they found a detox that could take me, and I went to detox December of 2022, and I was there for 4 days, and it was absolutely terrifying. You walk in with nothing. You can't even bring like your own toothbrush because you could be bringing something in that could hurt yourself, or so. You can't have your own clothes. You can't have anything. So you get there and they give you clothes to put on, and they give you your own little goodie bag of stuff, like a brush that was like not really even a brush, just stuff to kind of keep yourself, some deodorant, soap. So I remember just sitting in my room being completely terrified, and that ended up being one of the most amazing experiences I've ever gone through. I submerged myself in that 4 days of every single thing I could be a part of, every group activity, every one-on-one activity. I mean, any extra paperwork they'd give me, I just was like all in because I didn't want to live like this anymore. And so they let me leave after 4 days, and that was December 4th of 2022. And fast forward, so here I am, this like little baby, first time I've ever attempted to not drink. And I had tried AA, I had tried Celebrate Recovery after I got out. Like they basically say get involved immediately as soon as you leave, like go to a meeting. So I went to some AA meetings, and I was not getting, like, I wasn't feeling it. I liked Celebrate Recovery better. And then fast forward to December 18th of 2022. Rob was speaking, and he wanted to let the church know about Alex. And he was saying how sick Alex was and how desperately Alex needed a kidney, and for the church to pray.
How did you make your way to the church for the first time? Like, what brought you to the church?
So what brought me to the church was Brian. Brian's mom, Karen, is extremely involved in the church and has been for, since the beginning. And long story short, it kind of started as a let's go to church to for your mom, right? To make her happy, because I knew that she really wanted us to be there, and like it wasn't going to be a permanent thing because I live almost to the ocean front. So it was going to be like we can come occasionally, but we still need to find our own church.
So you live in Virginia Beach
Mhm.
even now?
Mm-hmm.
And you make the drive?
I
Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, they live far.
Yeah. Almost to the ocean front. So we're pretty far. So it started as a, here and there. And my daughter fell in love with the youth group. And we were going to other churches trying to find a fit that would be a fit for us permanently, but kind of coming here in between. And everywhere we were going was not, it just wasn't. I mean, I think anybody that feels that connection can understand what I'm talking about when you get connected in a church and it's just home. And so, Natalie, this was the first church that she wouldn't stay with me. Natalie's always been like my little sidekick. Like we're super close. We do everything together. And, she would stay at big church with me. She would never go to youth group. And this was the first church that she actually would go off and go to youth group, which was huge. And so it that was where I was like, I know this is where we need to be, because Natalie, you know, and between Karen and then we did love coming here. We love the music, we love Rob. It was just that one hurdle of how far it is. So but I mean, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know, so
So you have a list of all the bad churches. Which ones are they?
No.
No, I'm kidding.
no bad churches.
No, just
some
kidding.
kids' grass.
Just kidding.
So December 18th, at this point, before even the detox, we had committed this being our church, and we were coming here regularly. And I don't know that really many people, probably, I don't even know if Brian knows this, but I would come on Sunday after already drinking. So when I was drinking, you know, I'd be showing up to church after having a couple, 1, 2, 3 shots, whatever it was, to kind of get my day started and deal, right? Um, so here I am, December 18th, completely clear mind. And, Rob talks about Alex, and I felt this overwhelming voice say, go get tested. And it was just like, I knew. And I talked to God in that moment, and I was like, you're crazy. Like, I'm sick. Like, I just got out of detox. God knows what I've done to my liver, my kidneys. Like, my kidney's not going to be good enough for him. Like, my immediate reaction, I'm not good enough. And so, but I could just feel it, and I just knew. I just knew I was supposed to go. So I leaned over to Karen and I said, Karen, how do I, get connected to see if I'm, can get tested? And she goes, oh, well, actually, Dan is in my small group. I'll get you his number. So Dan tells me how to go and who to call to get tested. And so I call, and Alex at the time was not well enough to receive a kidney, and they won't do any type of testing until they are, because it's only good for 1 year. So let's say I go get tested and he's not well enough till a year and a day from now, they have to redo all the tests again. So they wait till the person is well enough to receive the kidney. So we waited about 3 months, and we got the green light, and I went, and it was like, I don't know, about a 4-hour process of just a bunch of education of kind of beginning to end of what can happen, what happens. And I mean, it was really incredible. It was a really cool, just um I I mean, I think everybody should at least experience it, like to go and just learn about the beginning and end process all the way through of being a living donor. So at the very end, she goes, "Do you still want to get tested?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I got tested, and I don't know, I can't remember how many days it was after that, and I got the phone call, and I thought for sure I was not going to be a match. I just, I don't know why. What's the likelihood, right? Like, who thinks they're going to be the match? Like, so I get the phone call, and I'm waiting for her to say that, that I'm not the match. And she's like, you're your friend's match. And I'm like, what? And she was like, yeah, you're a match. And so I immediately get off with the phone with her and let the Alvarez's know, because in this process, they don't communicate with the recipient at all. The donor's kind of very, very protected, and for a lot of reasons. They don't want people like trying to manipulate you, or, so I, immediately told them, and so that's kind of how we started that whole process. And it was a process. It took from there till the end probably about 9 months. And it was there was parts of it that I would get mad at God, because I'm like, I'm trying to give this sick person my kidney so he can feel better. Like, why is this not happening? What's taking so long? And
So what like I know Dan hit on it a little bit.
uh-huh.
He was saying that there was like a lot of like therapy,
Mhm.
like where they would talk to people like, "Hey, are you sure you still want to do this?"
Yeah.
So do you mind like talking about like what actually went through the 9 months? Because in my head, I thought I think it's easy. Like, hey, you need a kidney? Okay, here, take my kidney.
Right.
That's it. We're matches. We're all good.
Right.
like
Yeah.
next day we can get it done.
Yeah, so that's not the process. The beginning of the process is, um, so once you are a match, the beginning is all the testing up to see now, okay, am I healthy? Am I even able to give my kidney? So, and of course, that's where my mind was like, I don't know, because of what I've done to my body, all the drinking.
Was that a consideration for them? Did you divulge that to them? And then
I had sat down with Linda and Dan because I wanted them to know, like I didn't want there to be this weird secret of like, so they did know. Um, and so we went down the process and they do all kinds of blood work and all kinds of stuff. And we get to the end of that. I mean, it's like you do a set of testing and then okay, you've passed all that testing, then they start a whole nother set of testing, and then because it's all about money too, right? They don't want to waste money that, like, let's say the very beginning of testing, they find something that makes me not a donor. They don't want to do all of the, because it's expensive.
Yeah. Right.
So we get through, the first part and okay, cleared. Second part, cleared. Third part, cleared. And we get down to this. And so finally it's like, okay, now you get to meet with the doctor. And the doctor comes in the room and he says, Beth, he says, you not only are a match, but you are literally a perfect donor. He said, you are beyond healthy. You have literally nothing, nothing. He said, there is this virus that 80% of Americans have, and it doesn't prevent you from being a donor, but we like to know if you have it because it's a part of the, I guess, I don't know if they have to give the recipient something to, I'm not sure why, but he goes, you literally don't even have that.
Mm.
And so it was just like such a huge, that day was such a huge moment because it was like a gift to me that like I didn't, wreck my liver or my kidneys or whatever, so we get all through all of that. And oh, and then we also had mental health was another big thing. And I was very brutally honest from the very first phone call that I made to them about my past and about my drinking and that I was an alcoholic and
Were you
so
currently an alcoholic, like literally right then as well? No,
So-
or still, you were already. Oh, that's right.
so I will always be an alcoholic. It's just I'm a recovering alcoholic. And so I was sober when I called. And like I said, that was the very first time I ever tried to get sober. And about 3 months into that sobriety, and this is extremely common in the addiction world, like if you spend any time inside of the rooms, this is very, very common. I started to believe that, well, maybe I didn't have a problem. Maybe it was just all of the things that I was dealing with. And now that I was dealing with all of them and getting better and healing, maybe I could drink. And so I learned within about a week that no, Beth cannot drink. I within my first drink, within a week I was drinking around the clock. Hot mess. Like, so luckily I was very fortunate with God's grace that I was able to put it back down so quickly. Because that's not the case for a lot of people. Like, it doesn't, a lot of times a lot of people will go through multiple relapses or they're gone, they leave and they're gone for long periods of time. And so that happened. I'm actually, this Saturday is my year of sobriety. So,
Amen.
yeah. So I had that quick, you know, week of, okay, Beth is definitely an alcoholic and Beth can't drink. So, and I was honest with, I was talking to this woman named Kelly that was with the donation coordination. And they knew everything because I didn't want there to be anything that was ever gonna like come back and be like, oh, well, you didn't tell us this or, so they knew of all of it. And they also, my sponsor from AA. So I know I said in the very beginning I wasn't getting connected in AA. When I got sober the second time, I ended up falling completely in love with AA. I got a sponsor that I adore. She's absolutely amazing. She worked with me through this whole process also because um, a part of getting sober is you need to have somebody that can help you make big life decisions and stuff like that. And having a kidney taken out of your body is kind of a big deal. So, but she was actually, I was afraid she was going to tell me no. And she actually told me that that I could go through with that. Um, so where were we at? Go to the doctor.
Yeah, left off at the mental health.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so we had to go down that whole road. And I got cleared. I got cleared with my mental health, which that I think I was more excited about that than I was about my physical health because it was like they believe me. They believe that I can be so like I'm doing this thing, right? I'm getting better. And so that was like a really huge moment too. So we get cleared of the mental health, we get cleared of the physical health. And then the next step was a CAT scan. And the CAT scan was to basically make sure I didn't know this, but some people can have three kidneys. Some people can have one kidney. You can have like longer arteries, just all different things can happen. And so they do the CAT scan to make sure there's not going to be any like surprises when they go in to do the surgery. Well, I had a 3 ovarian cyst and they wanted me to meet with the doctor, and the doctor was basically like, I don't, if it was me, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have let my daughter do it. I think I'm pretty much telling you that I don't think you should do it. And this was the surgeon. This was who was going to do the surgery. And he's basically has me in the office basically telling me that he's not going to do the surgery. And I was just basically like, well, it's my body and I'm healthy and I've struggled with female issues my entire life. I had to have a bunch of female surgeries because of it. I'm not worried about these cysts. Like, but one was really close to my ureter, and that's what they were concerned about. So, they wanted to run more tests and do more things, and so I leave there completely discouraged. Um, I just, I really thought that this might be getting taken away from Alex. And so maybe like 2 weeks after that, I could feel um, the pain of a ruptured cyst. Any woman that has experienced that knows what it feels like. It's excruciating. And I'm like, I'm almost positive that this cyst has ruptured. And so I call Kelly, the coordinator. I'm like, hey, I'm pretty sure that the cyst is ruptured. I don't know if we can just do an ultrasound or what to like see if I'm right. And she's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and I'll call the doctor. So the doctor's like, well, let's go ahead and do another CAT scan, do the CAT scan, cleared. So the cyst that they're worried about had ruptured. So they finally cleared me for surgery. And which was huge. Because like I said, there was so many moments of this is my body. Like, why won't you let me, like, I'm watching this person be sick and I want him to be able to start his life. I want him to be able to get a job and do the things he wants to do and feel better and not be attached to the dialysis all the time. And so um we get a surgery date and Alex gets COVID. So it's like another like so close. We were so close. Um, so I think we waited about another 6 weeks after that and finally got to go through with surgery. And it's funny because everybody was like, Beth, are you nervous? Are you scared? Like, how do you feel? And I was like, no, I'm not, I honestly was not nervous. I knew from the very beginning that it's what God intended. And I didn't have any, like, I was very comfortable with it, very ready for it. I just wanted it to happen. Like, I was just like, let's get this thing,
Take the
um,
kidney out.
yeah, take my kidney before I do it. Like, what are we doing? So, so that's how I walked into surgery. And then, I have to admit, after surgery was really hard. Um, there were some complications with my end surgery wise, and recovery was not easy. So it there was some moments that it was pretty intense. I lost a lot of weight. I felt awful, and there was moments of like, am I gonna get better? Like, what is like, I felt so confident that I knew that's what God wanted me to do, but I didn't know, why it had why it was taking so long.
So what's the recovery for that usually? Is it like 6 to 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, or?
Yeah, usually about 6 weeks. So, and for me, it was like it took about 3 months for me to feel like me again. So, and the first 8 weeks was really hard. So, and then Alex had some complications too. So, it's it's incredible now that here we are on the both of us on the other side. He's now got a job. And I feel, better. I'm all better. And it's it's amazing. Like, it's just been it's incredible if you think about where I was December 2022 and then what God did with that.
Mhm.
Not only did he save my life, he saved Alex's life too. And I just think that it's so beautiful what God has done for me. And because of what he's done for me, I was able to, help somebody else also. And it's just, um, it's honestly unbelievable. If you had asked me, you know, December 5th, 2022, when I walked out of that detox, if this is where I was going to be today, I would not have believed you. And not because I thought I was going to drink again. I really was working so hard, but I had so far to come. I was just so broken and so shattered. And, you know, finances, everything was just a mess. And so, it's just absolutely amazing what God has done, um, and continues to do. I just had you know, another answered prayer. My mom and I have not had a very good relationship through pretty much ever. And it's been kind of like a off and on weird thing throughout my life. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into detail. And I had prayed and prayed and prayed so hard that there would be, the resentment would go for me and that I could forgive. Um, and this past weekend, it finally happened for me. And it's so funny. I was at a convention and another woman was speaking about her mom, and it all of that resentment just left my body, and I immediately forgave, and everything just that last bit of, the things that I've had to deal with to get through the 12 steps and all of that. That was like the one thing that I was still holding on to, and it just was gone. And I decided, I'd been praying for my mom, but I was ready to like take it to the next step. And I reached out to her, and by reaching out to her, she then wanted to talk, and you know, that talk was amazing, and there's some real healing that happened inside that talk. And so it's just God just keeps bringing all of these, just gifts to me through my sobriety, through my walk with him, listening to him, following him. So it's just been it's been incredible. So,
I talked to, I don't even know if you know this, but I was at Jesse's house and Alex just randomly called me. And, because we haven't seen him for a while.
mm-hmm.
And I had been encouraging him because I'd seen him periodically. I work up here with the kids. So um, I try to get down there every once in a while so I can like congregate. But I'd seen him periodically, but, like you said, he'd been sick. And so I talked to Dan and I said, man, if we've got to wheel that kid up on the stage, let's do it. And he just hasn't been in that place. But I heard a rumor that next Sunday he's going to be up on the stage. Oh, you did
Yes.
know. You probably connected at the hip with him at this point, right?
Yeah.
Literally.
She can probably tell without even talking to him what his next move is at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So he did tell me that. And
Okay,
it's pretty
great.
cool because I pick up my medallion on Saturday for my sobriety, and then he's going to be singing on Sunday. So
Wow.
it's like a full circle. Like, it's pretty cool. So,
There's so many things that you were saying during that I was thinking, like initially when you said God, it was an overwhelming call for me from God to just go do it.
mhm.
And then when you said, yeah, I didn't know if I didn't really think I was going to be a match. I was thinking, there's no way you're not going to be, because God wouldn't call you
Mhm.
if that wasn't the case. And it's such a good reminder that like, we got to listen to him and think about all the things that got in the way that God cleared out. And if there's anybody who has any doubt in God, just listening. And I've never heard your story before right now. It doesn't, if you're ever doubting God, and not you, but anybody, there's no way that happened without God.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
There's just too many things that had to be moved.
Absolutely.
And it's just the fact as well that how you were saying, like, there's no way my kidney or in my liver can be that. And he's like, you're perfectly healthy, nothing at all. Like, again,
That's a miracle.
absolutely. And then I guess my question as well is that we have, I think, like a lot of people who watch us, but for someone I guess who may not know they're an alcoholic or who knows they're an alcoholic, what would be the best way for them to get help and the best way for them to, I guess I only know like AA and everything through like movies, Hollywood, TV, that type of style thing, and a little bit through the Navy. So I don't know it firsthand and what actually goes through. But like, what would you recommend for someone who is struggling with their walking or who hasn't even who hasn't initiated the step as well?
So AA saved my life. Um, don't get me wrong. Church is a huge, huge, huge part of my life, and I'm very thankful that we have a family, and I love our small group here. And there's amazing things that have happened inside the church, but AA is what has get me sober, and kept me sober. And I would recommend just getting to a room. And if, you get to a room and you don't like it, it's not for you, you don't like the message, you don't like whatever, go to another, because that was my thing. The first few times I went, I just wasn't feeling it. Either I felt like everybody was way older than I was, or just various things. And part of that too probably was like I deep down probably didn't think I had a problem. So just get into a room and stay. Don't leave. Um, that's what you hear all the time inside the rooms is keep coming back. The miracle will happen. So, just keep coming back. That's all I could say. You will, you know, for me, like to this day, even working through my steps, like recovery will be a part of my life for the rest of my life. And like I mentioned a moment before about my mom, like that was a AA convention where I heard what that woman had said, and I heard it, and it touched me. That happens to me all the time inside of AA. Like you're going to hear your story. You're going to hear a story like yours. You're going to share, and somebody's going to come up to you and say, that happened to me, or, and be able to give you advice. I mean, it's, you will actually feel like you're connected. And when you're connected, you're protected. So, I just, that's what I would say. I would say just get get involved. Like you have to like and forgive yourself. That was a really, really, really hard one for me. Was forgiving myself. So
I Jesse's playing footsie with me under the table. But you know, I had been struggling with my salvation for a long time, and I know I probably mentioned this before, sound like a broken record, but I was trying to deal with how could God forgive me for all this stuff that I've done? How is it possible that He, a holy God, I could stand before Him with any kind of salt and expect Him to forgive me? And it wasn't until I started reading His Word that I started looking through and seeing all the broken people that He forgave, and that's where I thought it stopped. I looked all the way back and I said, well, look at, like we were talking about earlier, look at David, where he was lusting after Bathsheba. And then you go all the way to um, Peter, who denied Christ. Literally, and Jesus predicted it and said, you're going to deny me. He said, oh, I'd never do it. And then did it 3 times, right? And then Paul, who's persecuting all these Christians and even watching the stoning of an early prominent Christian. And I thought, and I was really struggling. Am I going to be forgiven? Am I going to be forgiven? And then I thought, man, if he didn't just forgive David and Peter and Paul, he elevated them.
mm-hmm.
And if he could do that for them, what could he do for me? And it's such an amazing thing to hear, like, because that's such a redemption. Because and the crazy thing is he's not finished with you,
No, he's not.
and that's awesome. I love it.
He's not.
You stole my question, but it's okay though. No, so I have a question. So I know you were talking about it, and then how you're saying that you'll always be an alcoholic, but you'll be a recovering alcoholic. So I guess nowadays, like whenever you have the tendency, because I'm not too sure how it works, but how you have the tendency to want to take a drink, or you might want to have a drink. How do you work through that? Like is it just like nope, not at all? Like I know where it leads, and then that's just it, or how does that work as well?
So the obsession has been lifted from me. I don't have the obsession of needing the drink or wanting the drink. That being said, it doesn't mean it can't come back. We're taught to, like, you need to have community.
Yep.
You have to have people in your life that you can call and say, hey, like this just happened and I really want to drink right now. Like, and so you need community, but you also got to be honest. Like that's a big part of the program is honesty. You're not going to be able to stay sober if you're not honest. Like you got to be honest with yourself. You need to be honest with others. And so, like I said, I don't have that obsession today, but that doesn't mean it won't be there tomorrow. So we're very big on one day at a time. And I just, it's one day at a time. And if that ever happens, I have to get my phone out and call somebody, and don't sit on it. Um, because that's where the devil can start to like, you have one thought and then you have another thought and then you have another thought and then there you are drinking. So, if you can squash it before it gets to that point, and the best way to do that is to call somebody and let them kind of talk you off, that temptation.
How much have you leaned on on Him strengthening you and His power to like help you get through?
Every day, every day. And I say that I'm so thankful for the program, but the program, one of the most important parts of the program is your higher power. Not everybody in AA believes that their higher power is Jesus Christ, but most people do. And, you have to, that's a part of the steps. Like, you have to have a higher power, or, the ability, like, you need that. You have to have that, you know, and I think that's where I was a little bit luckier than some others that I already had that. So I didn't have that hold up of like, you know, not having that and it being harder and taking longer to be able to start to get into recovery. But I do have that. I do have that relationship with God. I'm just actually listening more now than I used to. I could hear him. I just wasn't listening. So.
And then I know how you said that you met Brian, and I know a little bit of Brian's story as well, just because he's in a discipleship. Is it good to have someone as well who's going through their AA as well, like to lean on type style, or is it not like advised to do that as well? I'm just curious. I have so many questions. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So really, you should not be dating inside of AA in your first year, if you're not already in a committed relationship. Brian and I were already dating before, I decided, we decided to get sober. So it's a little bit different. That being said, I don't fall on, I, I use, I use the women in the program for my like all of my, like my sponsor. We meet once a week, and I'm not saying I would never say, Brian, hey, today I really want to have a drink, but I just feel like for me, I reach out to the women in the community, and I just feel like he needs his recovery and I need my recovery, and then we can always come together in recovery too. But I think it's like, even with my dad and my stepmom, they keep their recovery separated. So they, not, I take that back. They have like their home groups and all of that. They also do things together, but they also, they have, it's important that you, I don't want my identity to be all inside of a relationship, if that makes sense.
100% makes sense.
Do you have anything else before we close it out? This has been really good for me.
Oh, yeah. I loved it.
I love it. I'm here for it.
I would like to say that for anybody that is struggling with alcohol, and I know there's a lot of people that are, and I know that defeated, and I know that empty, shameful, lost, just, I get it. And there's help. There's help out there. And, I pray for everybody that is struggling with it, or even people that have found recovery and are back out. I pray for them, and I pray for, that they can find what their, God, and, that they can have a relationship with God. Makes things a whole lot easier.
Amen.
Love it. All right. All right, everybody. So that was episode 9 of the Iron Sharpens Iron podcast. Beth's testimony. So thank you for sharing that. So as always, thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll post it all on all of our social medias. But so thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next week.